Very well then. Proceed.
The defense calls Lana Skye to the stand. Lana, I'd like you to tell us about the character and dealings of Chief Gant.
As you wish. Chief Gant and I worked together for 5 years. There's a bond of trust between us, and these ridiculous accusations are completely untrue. On the night Neil Marshall died, I alone was first on the scene, and I alone was responsible for fabricating the evidence to ensure Joe Dark's conviction.
Lana, you don't have to protect him anymore.
The defense will not badger the witness.
Mr. Wright, if you're determined to continue down this path, you need to brush up on your evidence law.
I suppose you also refute the claim that Gant murdered Goodman.
Of course, Mr. Edgeworth. As you well know, it was I who killed Mr. Goodman.
Lana, tell me the truth. Are the contents of this book legitimate?
Indeed it is, and that's why I had to lie to the world. Perhaps it wasn't the right thing to do, but I did it for a reason.
But what if that reason was also a lie? What if you were being manipulated from the start? Lana, just answer me one question. When you entered that room, was Chief Gant already there?
Yes.
Damon? Seriously, Archie, this is the poorest excuse for the trial I've ever seen.
Gant, you have no more jurisdiction here. You've forfeited your right to testify. Just sit back and listen to the noose slowly tighten.
Testify? I've got nothing to say worthy. But Righto does. What? Why so quiet, Righto? I believe you have some evidence to show. Evidence that shows who really killed Neil Marshall.
No.
What?
I have no evidence to present at this time.
You lie. You took it for my sake. The conclusive evidence.
What are you doing, Mr. Wright?
Oh, I see. You know. You know whose prints are on it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, right. You're braver than I thought. But if I'm going down for forgery, I'm taking you with me. David, what's going on here? Mr. Wright is in possession of a piece of cloth cut from the waistcoat of Neil Marshall after he died. How did you know this, David? Because it was me that cut it. What? You're saying you committed forgery? Yes, it's a little inconvenient, but it's better than being framed for murder.
Oh. Do you mean this, Chief Gant?
There it is!
Right, what are you doing?
He's running out of options. Come on, Wright. Tell us, whose fingerprints are on that cloth?
Emma Skye.
No! No! I trusted you!
How does it feel to be the man who single-handedly turned that girl into a murderer? Even your own client can't stand the sight of you. You could have made this easy if you'd just shown us the cloth when I told you to, but instead, you purposely concealed evidence. You're finished, Phoenix Wright. You'll be charged for this. I'll see to it that you never work again. First things first, I'll be taking your badge.
Before you do that, can I finish what I was saying?
What?
I believe the defense has more to add.
Lana has just provided me with these photos, missing evidence from the SL9 case.
And what of it? They prove the cause of death.
True, but they prove one more thing.
What?
Who really killed Neil Marshall? As you can see from this photo, when Marshall was impaled on the sword, his lung was punctured. Blood poured from his mouth and spilled over his waistcoat. But if this cloth was truly cut away after he was killed, wouldn't it be blood-stained too?
Archie, don't listen to him.
The only way this cloth could be as it is if it was taken before Marshall was killed, but after Emma collided with him. In other words, Emma didn't kill Neil Marshall. That burden lies with the one who stood over the unconscious Marshal, cut away the cloth, and then impaled his body on the sword, killing him in cold blood. You, Damon Gant! No! It's over.
You almost had me there, right?
What?
You can prove whatever you want with that cloth. It won't do you a bit of good. That cloth is legal evidence. What? Righto saw to that when he refused to present it. He violated court procedure and concealed evidence. In doing that, he not only brought charges against himself, he rendered the cloth illegal as evidence. And the law says that no conviction can be made using illegal evidence.
Objection! Unless, of course, I had a valid reason not to present it.
What do you mean?
Haven't you read about evidence law? Because if you had, you'd know that unregistered evidence can only be presented if it has a clear connection to the case on trial. When I brought this cloth into court, it was just a piece of cloth, with nothing linking it to the SL9 incident. It was only when you admitted that you personally cut this from the waistcoat of Neil Marshall that you gave it meaning and rendered it legal as evidence.
You swindler!
My conduct has been completely legal. The only corruption has been on your part. That day you let your ambition get the better of you, and today's the day it catches up with you. When you entered that room, you didn't see the helpless girl, her gallant rescuer, and the man who tried to kill her. You saw an opportunity. You knew that there was no one more precious to Lana Skye than her little sister, and you saw a way of engineering the scene before you to frame Emma for murder. If Lana could be made to believe that Emma was guilty of murder and that only you knew about it, she would do absolutely anything to protect her. And that's why Neil Marshall died. Because to you, he was the casualty which had to occur to give you what you wanted most. Power!
He always suspected me, Marshall's brother. 2 years he's been sneaking around behind my back, trying to dig something up on me. I knew I should have gotten rid of him. And then he recruited Angel Star to help him investigate. I never thought he'd convince Goodman though. That day he asked if I could accompany him to the evidence room. Said he'd lost his card and he had to empty his locker. I walked down with him and let him in. He just opened his locker when suddenly he had to speak out.
We can't close the case, there are too many unanswered questions.
In that moment, I panicked. I saw my whole world come crashing down, and then I saw that accursed knife. The blood was pouring out. Removing the knife would only make it worse. I was so busy trying to clean up the floor, I didn't notice my mistake. I called on Lana to help me. She had as much to lose as I did if the truth came out. Sorry about your car, were they? We couldn't think of any other way to do it. They all did their best to get in my way. They did their jobs well. In the end, it seems I was much better at investigating crimes than committing them.